I hope everyone is doing good. Whoop. Hands up. All right, let's go. Okay, we have 20 minutes, and I know Dominic likes to talk about how blockchain will change the world. And let's keep the answer short so we can go through many of these questions. So we already heard about Web 2, Web 3, what it is roughly, but I want to go a bit more in detail and talk about some specifics. So my first question is really, how does blockchain technology really solve business problems? Can you give us some examples? What have you seen out there?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of different opinions in the space about how blockchain solves business problems. But the perspective I bring, somebody working on the internet computer, is that blockchain will replace traditional IT. So one of the nice things about the internet computer is that it can be used as an end-to-end technology platform. And the internet computer blockchain is also not created by cloud. It runs on a sovereign network of dedicated hardware. So you can build a social network on the internet computer. And you can have thousands or millions or one day even billions of users interacting with that. And the big advantage for business, I think, of blockchain technology is that you build using blockchain code. Blockchain code is essentially, another word for it is smart contracts. And it has these special properties. So smart contracts are tamper-proof, which means they're guaranteed to run against the correct data, and you're guaranteed to run the correct logic. So if you think about it, you don't need a firewall to protect Bitcoin, right? There's no firewall around Bitcoin. There's no firewall around Ethereum. And there's no firewall around the internet computer. When you build things from smart contracts, you can be sure that if the code is correct, they can't be hacked, and nobody can sort of find a backdoor into the blockchain and encrypt your systems with ransomware. So that's huge for business, right? I mean, if you look at, in 2021, there was a thing called the Colonial Pipeline hack. The Colonial Pipeline was an oil pipeline that took oil from Texas to the eastern seaboard of the United States, where it's processed by refineries and turned into gasoline. And that thing, the servers that ran that pipeline got encrypted with ransomware, and the oil stopped flowing, the petroleum stopped flowing, people started running out of gas, and there's huge tailbacks at gas stations. So security is big. It's also smart contracts are also unstoppable and have a bunch of other very magical properties. So it's a new kind of software. And so our view is that we'll see a kind of blockchain singularity where all of our systems and services move onto blockchain, and smart contracts will kind of eat traditional software, and blockchain will eat cloud. So I think, if you scroll forward a number of years, the IT space will look very different. People will be targeting blockchain as their primary platform.
Nice, thank you very much. And so you're from the DFINITY Foundation, and the DFINITY Foundation is working on the internet computer, right? And so that is a very unique type of technology to solve problems that otherwise Ethereum, Polygon, and so on have, right? That's why you are there and you want to push the needle or move the needle forward. And I would like to understand what kind of projects can exist on your blockchain that cannot exist on other blockchains, just to show the differences and also how you solve those problems.
Yeah, so DFINITY, the word DFINITY it comes from a concatenation of decentralized infinity. And I was working on scalable blockchains through 2014. I was involved with Ethereum early on. And I pivoted to working on this concept of a world computer in 2015. And the vision is one of blockchain singularity, where the vast majority of humanity's systems and services are built on blockchain without use of traditional IT. So traditional IT is things like cloud computing services, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, databases, web servers, memcached, all that stuff. So the DFINITY vision is that people build on infinitely scalable, incredibly efficient blockchain with capabilities, for example, that allow it to serve web, smart contracts to serve web. And the internet computer is the realization of that vision. DFINITY has long run the largest R&D operation in blockchain. We have the largest team of sort of well-known cryptographers in the world. I mean, bigger than Google, for example, probably bigger than the NSA. And it does things that, other blockchains can't. And we have a sort of different vision, different focus. And we want to replace traditional tech. And we want things running end-to-end on blockchain. So, we foresee a world where business systems run 100% on blockchain. And for example, we have a Swiss bank building out some infrastructure on the internet computer right now.
Can I ask a question about that? Why would I run my business on the blockchain? For the audience to understand the benefits.
So, I mean, well, there are different ways of understanding this, right? If you go back to the 1990s, there were two kinds of network. There was AOL, CompuServe, Microsoft had proposed this thing called the information superhighway. And they said, look, everybody should connect via these walled garden networks where all the content was curated by these big corporations. And on the other side, there was the internet, and they were saying, well, look, the internet is very dangerous. It's unregulated. There's no one protecting the user. Everyone's going to prefer this kind of carefully curated content. Now, in the end, the internet created this free market, right? Because anybody could build a credit website, and people just preferred it. And so, you can look at this in the same way that at some very basic level, like, Amazon Web Services is like the AOL versus the internet. People are going to prefer to build on public networks rather than using proprietary infrastructure as their foundations because they become captive customers. But that's just the basic reason. The more nuanced answer is that when you build on a blockchain, you build with smart contracts. And this kind of code is tamper-proof, so you can't get hacked if you're right. Obviously, there's been some hacks of smart contracts, but generally it's flaws in the code. There's no backdoor. People can't encrypt your systems with ransomware. The network's unstoppable. And you have more sophisticated ways. You can create more sophisticated ways of controlling corporate infrastructure using Dows. So Dows aren't just for mass market Web3 services. They're also for controlling access to corporate infrastructure. So, for example, if you were the Colonial Pipeline and you decided to build all of your control systems on the internet computer, very likely you'd control that with a DAO, so you didn't have one tech guy with a key that could update the systems. You'd probably distribute it using control using a DAO. So all of the same infrastructure that's being pioneered for mass market Web3 services will also eventually be applied within the corporate space, just in a slightly different way.
Yeah, I understand. What I wonder is, why would businesses benefit from using DAOs and giving away control, where we're kind of used to controlling everything, and we are also responsible for these things, right? That we're building for the database securities and for the logic of the code. But now we're putting it into the hands of a community, let's say, if we go to the extent of the power of a decentralized autonomous organization. And then who is in charge? Am I still in charge? Is the community in charge? And why would I do that? What benefit do I get for doing that?
So, Web3 and enterprise will use DAOs in different ways. So DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. It's kind of like a digital democracy. So there's something called OpenChat that just launched on the internet computer. It's a mass market messaging service. It runs end-to-end on the blockchain. Chat messages are processed as transactions. So just like, a Bitcoin transaction transfers Bitcoin, on the internet computer, a chat message can transfer and store a chat message. And that recently assigned control to a DAO. And they distributed the governance tokens in a sort of decentralization swap, decentralization sale. And now there are some thousands of holders of these chat tokens. And collectively they control this digital democracy, which is automated, and it can update the logic and the smart contract logic that creates the chat service. But that's like Web3, right? Enterprise will use Web3 technology, but in a different way. let's say you're the Colonial Pipeline and you want to run your pipeline control infrastructure on the internet computer. You want to distribute control, but you wouldn't give it to a community. What you do is you take the governance tokens and you would just give them to, you distribute them to key people internally. So all you're doing is just making sure that one person can't go rogue and just sort of push a bad update, or even worse, just delete the systems.
Yeah. All right. So I want to wake up the audience a little bit. And if you have any kind of questions, raise your hand. I will run to you and I will give you the mic to ask a question. Just, I think, one or two questions. And then at the end, I want to paint the picture of the future and ask Dominic about how the world will look in 5 to 10 years from now, because we have the blockchain and Web3 technologies. How would it shape the future? So, any questions? All right. Damn, I have to run quite far now, yeah? But that's on me. Run, Forrest. All right, quickly say who you are and question.
Sure. I'm Tahir. I am a senior development manager, basically. My question is about the big giants like Microsoft, Amazon, and the other people. How is it going to, how the transition is going to be from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0? As you mentioned, the web services and everything is now traditional. The cloud computing is now traditional. And the next way forward is the blockchain. How this transition is going to happen, and what's the role of these big giants like Amazon and Microsoft and Google, how they are going to contribute towards that? So is there going to be kind of contradiction towards it, or what's the next thing? What would be their role in this transition?
Great question.
So I think I understood that, the question, which is how do the giants like Amazon and Microsoft fit into Web3? How are they going to transition from Web 2 to Web3? There are very different visions in blockchain about how that's going to work and what's going to happen. A lot of blockchains have this cloud vision, right? So, if you look at a blockchain like, Solana, Ethereum, Avalanche, you'll often hear things are built on that blockchain, but it's not really how it works. People are building, the service runs on Amazon Web Services, right? All the compute and data is on Amazon Web Services, and then, they keep some NFTs or some tokens on the blockchain and some tiny clips of data. And then the blockchains themselves also run on the cloud, right? They're like cloud apps, but they'll run between several, providers like, Amazon, Hetzner. Hetzner just switched off Solana, so they lost about 40% of their validators. Someone like me, I guess I'm a blockchain maximalist. Been working for years, and I believe in a blockchain singularity. So the internet computer doesn't run on the cloud. It runs on a sovereign network of hardware. It's created by these things called node machines, a bit like Bitcoin's created by ASICs. Obviously, however, it's many millions of times more efficient than a traditional blockchain. And we don't want people building on the cloud at all. I mentioned this thing called OpenChat. It's a mass market messaging service, and it runs on the internet computer, not on the cloud. And the internet computer also doesn't run on the cloud. It's created by these node machines people run from independent data centers around the world. So that's a different vision. I think the problem for us is, how can something, Web3 in the sort of consumer sense is really about creating services that run under the control of communities, right? So if you look at this service I just mentioned, it just assigned control to a special kind of DAO called a service nervous system. And it runs entirely under the control of this DAO. All of the software updates are proposed to the DAO, and if they're adopted, they're pushed into the service completely automatically. There's no human in that chain of, in the update chain, there's no sort of human component. It's all automated. And that means that the internet service is fully decentralized, and it runs in the mode of a protocol. And that's the aim. So if you think about Web3 generally, look, you had Web 1, right, which was people were just reading content off web servers. That was like, starting something like 1992 when the Mosaic web browser was released. people would create a homepage on servers, and then users would just read the homepage. So you could talk about Web 2 as being characterized by read. Web 2 sort of emerged, I guess, about 1996, 1997 with social media. There's a thing called Hot or Not. People would upload pictures of themselves so other users could vote on them. And so now users are beginning to write their own content to the web, right? So that was best characterized by write. Web 3 is about ownership. And obviously an early manifestation of users owning things are just tokens and NFTs and things like that. But it's really something much more profound. It's about the decentralization of services so they run under the control of Dows. And when that happens, the services will adopt all kinds of features that aren't otherwise possible because they're fully decentralized and they can run as protocols. The relationship between users and the services they use will change. So the experiences will become richer. The relationship between users and the services they use will change. And we'll just generally see a kind of very profound change in the nature of internet services. So that's what we believe in. And in order for that to happen, the fabric that people build on has to be decentralized, just in the same way as the services. So, the internet's decentralized. The things that we build on needs to be decentralized, like the internet computer, and the services that run have to be decentralized. But the whole stack has to be decentralized for that to happen. And that's not possible if any part of it's running on Amazon Web Services. So we think Web 3 will be a very different thing to Web 2.
Very nice. Thank you. Okay, so I want to add a few of my own thoughts to this question. I think it's quite fascinating because we have very big cloud providers, and they will not just look at how business is taken away from them. I believe they will, and they're already doing, for example, AWS is partnering with Avalanche. It's just one example there, where basically they will offer some kind of services that help you spin up a node and build your apps and deploy them. And I think I agree with you that it would be better if applications don't run on these kind of centralized clouds. They made it quite easy though, and quite convenient to launch your app there. And I think we still have to deal with them for the next 5 to 10 years in some way, shape, or form, because they will just launch an easy way to launch an ICP or the Internet Computer Node or whatever, right? Because they could just as well have a feature where you can click a few buttons and run such a node and host it there.
But I think so. I think that's again, where our vision kind of, I think, just diverges slightly. So the internet computer really is, you can think of it like a kind of crypto cloud. It's a blockchain, but it's a blockchain where your smart contracts can actually create interactive web experiences. So, for example, there's to see how that transforms DeFi. There's a beta order book exchange at icdex.io. If you go to icdex.io, there's this team in China, and they built an order book exchange that looks like, Poloniex or FTX or Coinbase Pro, but actually the whole thing is created by smart contracts, and the user experience that you're interacting with is created by a smart contract. So it's not coming off a web server, it's not coming off Amazon Web Services, which obviously can be hacked and is insecure. It's actually, the user experience is being created by a smart contract. And so you've got this kind of end-to-end decentralization.
Yeah, but the node that is running that smart contract can run anywhere, right? Can run on Hetzner, on my own machine, on Amazon, on Google Cloud, on anything else.
The cryptography of the internet computer means that you don't need to run your own node to interact.
Yeah, but any blockchain is encrypted, so it's fine, right? So I'm just saying that you're right. I think I agree with you. We should go off of these big players and these monopolies, but it will take some time. Also, I want to make sure that that the audience understands that we still have a lot of challenges in front of us, especially when it comes to regulation. We heard about in the first session when we talked about who is actually responsible for these smart contracts. If a DAO, for example, decides to do something illegal, so to speak, who is to blame? So there is still a lot of things to think about, but definitely that's the future. For me, it looks like it's, I don't know if you've been around when social media came about with all these social APIs and the way to build social apps. It was a crowd like this, not a lot of people, but it was basically exploding in the years to come. And I think that's exactly the same in this industry. It will explode. And make sure if you build your dApps that they are visible So make sure to list them on any kind of platform so they can be found by users, so you get some traffic. For that, you can talk to me. But other than that, Dominic, thank you very much. Any final words?
Thank
We're out
you,
of time.
Michael.
That's it?
Oh, final words, yeah. So I mean, with respect, look, I think you know, if you're running a business that wants to explore blockchain, you should try the Internet Computer. It provides a very different kind of environment to build in. It's like, you can think of it like a crypto cloud. You can build end-to-end on chain. We've got some banks now exploring building critical infrastructure on it. We've got some government agencies building some interesting projects on it. If you're in the Web3 space, I think my message to you is, look, you've got to build things that are end-to-end decentralized and run under the true control of Dows, because if you can run your Web3 service in the mode of a protocol, in the end, you know, you have a route to produce something that's not controlled by a company or a person or a group of devs, where many of the regulatory complexities that occur if you build on Amazon Web Services don't occur. So, you know, especially in today's environment, if you want to build mass market Web3 services, go fully decentralized, build on the Internet Computer, and put your service under the control of a community DAO.
Yeah, it sounds like back in the day when we said mobile first, now it's decentralization first. So when you design your app, think about decentralization and then go and launch it. Thank you very much, Dominic. A pleasure.
Thank you.